No man is free who is not master of himself. To yield to rage is to surrender sovereignty, making you a servant to your own passions. Epictetus. Chapter 1. The Exposed Vein. Exposed veins, a prince's most dangerous display. I understood that vulnerability. Never let them see your rage, for it is a weapon they will use to bleed you dry. Understood or express what you feel. This is a lie they feed you. Right now, your anger is an exposed vein, gushing power. And Niccolò Machiavelli understood this vulnerability better than anyone. He wrote that a prince must learn how not to be good, and that showing your true emotions, especially fury, reveals a soft underbelly enemies will always strike. Anger is a broadcast. It tells everyone you are losing control, that you are affected, that you are weak. When you boil over, you surrender your position. You give away your hand, your strategy, your true feelings. This makes you predictable, a target. Think about the person who snaps. The moment they raise their voice, slam their fist, or send that furious message, what happens next? Everyone around them instantly shifts. They stop listening to words, they start watching for the next outburst. They begin planning their counter move. They don't hear your argument, they see your fear, your desperation. They see a trigger they can pull again. A simple poke, a carefully placed word, and you are back in a frenzy. You become a puppet, dancing to their provocations. Your rage becomes their weapon. Sun Tzu, the master strategist, taught that if you know yourself but not your enemy, for every victory gained you will also suffer a defeat. What he understood is that displaying anger means you don't know yourself, or at least you don't control yourself. You give your enemy a map to your weaknesses, a clear path to victory. True power lies in the stillness, in the unreadable face, in the measured response. When they push, you do not push back immediately. You absorb, you observe aggression exhaust itself against your calm. This is how you reclaim control. If you announce your displeasure with a shout, people will either recoil in fear or openly defy you. They will see a tantrum, not a threat. But if you quietly absorb the blow, process the insult, and then act with cold precision, there is nothing for them to fight against. There is only consequence. Visible anger is a drain. It siphons your energy, clouds your judgment, and blinds you to opportunity. It makes you say things you can't retrieve, make moves you can't undo. It closes doors before you even realize they were there. Nothing leaks, nothing drains, everything compounds. Your silent fury, your calm observation, your controlled response, these are the tools of influence. The moment you let anger dictate your behavior, you hand over your power, piece by piece, until nothing is left. But there's another leak, subtler than anger, yet equally destructive. One that disguises itself as helpfulness, as loyalty, as understanding. What is it? Chapter 2. Your open book. Your open book, a dangerous illusion. They want to read your fears, identify your breaking points. Every tell, a weapon you hand them. This leak is the illusion of transparency. They want you to be an open book, to read your fears and identify your breaking points. Every flicker of irritation, every frustrated sigh, every outburst of temper is a page turned, a weapon you hand them. When you become an open book, enemies and even allies chart your weaknesses. They learn what triggers your defensive reactions, what makes you lash out. These are strategic tells, raw data they need to corner you to unravel your composure. Your emotional transparency becomes their tactical advantage. Think about a poker player who slams their fist on the table every time they bluff. They might think they're showing passion, but they're just revealing their pattern. They reveal everything, they broadcast their intentions, they invite manipulation. Your rage is that tell, but far more devastating. It doesn't just show your hand, it shows your entire deck. What Sigmund Freud understood is that our reactions betray deeper, hidden anxieties. He observed how the unconscious mind, agitated, projects fears outward in aggressive displays. Your uncontrolled anger is not power, it's a confession. It confesses insecurities, lack of control, your desperate need for validation or victory. It tells them exactly where to press next. Here's how you turn this weapon against them. Cultivate an emotional deadness, not apathy, but a calculated neutrality. When they prod, when they bait, when they try to ignite your fuse, offer nothing, no flinch, no eye roll, no tightening jaw. Become an unreadable wall. Your calm becomes a mirror, reflecting their desperation back at them. If you react with fury, people will see your vulnerability, your lack of self-control. They will sense your desperation. They will exploit it. They will push harder, knowing they can drain you, exhaust you, wear you down until you break. Your anger feeds their power. It fuels their game. But if you quietly observe their attempts, if you remain impenetrable, there's nothing to grasp, nothing to use. Your lack of reaction denies them satisfaction, leaving them frustrated and unsure. They crave a reaction. When you don't give it, their own minds turn against them, inventing reasons for your silence, often concluding you are far more formidable. Alexander the Great, faced with the defiant Gordian knot, did not painstakingly untangle it, but simply cut through it. He knew that sometimes the most effective response to a complex problem is to utterly disregard its terms, leaving your opponent without a framework for attack. Your emotional cutting of the knot is to show no reaction. This calculated neutrality is not about repression. It's about strategic withholding. It's about denying them the data they need to build their profile of your weaknesses. You become a black box. Your intentions remain hidden. Your triggers are invisible. Your power compounds in the shadows. But there is another trap, more insidious than the open book, one that ensnares you when you believe you are in control. It promises clarity, offers direction, yet steers you directly into their waiting nets. What is it? Chapter 3, The Baited Trap. The baited trap, your predictable rage, a lever. They want not just a reaction, but your reaction. Understand this mechanism or remain a puppet on their strings. The baited trap. This is the mechanism where your predictable anger makes you a puppet. They don't just want a reaction, they want your specific, engineered reaction. Every time you explode, every time you lash out, you confirm their power over your inner state. You leak control, a steady drip of autonomy draining from your core. Your anger, when it becomes a pattern, is a direct input-output system for anyone paying attention. They observe your hot buttons, they note the precise words or silences that trigger your fuse. This is not about winning an argument for them. It's about controlling your behavior, about making you dance to their tune without even realizing the strings are attached. Think about the last time someone pushed your exact buttons. The phrase, the look, the dismissive gesture that instantly ignited a fire in your gut. They knew, they understood the sequence. You weren't responding to the situation, you were responding to their calculated provocation, a script they wrote just for you. Here's how they do it. They don't just guess, they test. They deploy small probes, subtle jabs, watching for the tremor, the flicker in your eyes, the tension in your jaw. Once they identify the raw nerve, they store that data. They now possess a precise map of your emotional weak points, ready to exploit whenever they need a specific outcome from you. What Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary swordsman, understood is that true victory comes not from brute force, but from understanding your opponent's timing and rhythm. He wrote that to know your enemy, you must observe their deepest habits, their predictable moves. Your explosive anger is precisely one such predictable move, an opening they are trained to see. If you announce your rage, if you perform your indignation, you are simply giving them more ammunition. You confirm their assessment of your vulnerability, your theatrics become their control panel. They will simply refine their technique, finding new and more efficient ways to pull the lever and watch you jump. But if you quietly observe their attempts to provoke you, if you watch their hands move towards the strings, you break the circuit. You deny them the satisfaction of the predicted outburst, the power shifts. Their carefully constructed manipulation crumbles because the expected reaction never comes. The dark strategy is simple. Become unresponsive to their provocations. Let their words hang in the air, unanswered. Let their jabs find no purchase. This is not about suppressing the feeling. It is about severing the link between their action and your visible reaction. You internalize the data, they get nothing back. Napoleon Bonaparte, master of strategy, understood the critical importance of emotional discipline in the theater of war. He famously advised, "Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake." Your visible rage is exactly that. A mistake, an open flank, a clear target they will exploit without hesitation, turning your passion against you. This cultivated indifference, this refusal to perform their script, is your shield. It turns their baited trap into an empty gesture. They waste their energy. They lose their advantage. Your quiet, internal control becomes a wall they cannot breach. But there is another subtle drain, one that promises connection but delivers only exhaustion. Chapter 4, The Leaking Ship. Your fury, a betrayal. This chapter reveals how the wise prince, rather than fighting his enemies, first masters himself or drowns. Your biggest asset is your focus. Your sharpest weapon is your clarity. Anger, however, is a relentless siphon, drilling holes in your concentration, draining mental reserves. Every burst of fury, every simmering resentment is a leak in your ship. You believe you fight an enemy, but you fight yourself, squandering the very resources you need to win. This constant emotional turmoil consumes your bandwidth. It taxes your decision-making. Your memory falters, foresight blurs. You cannot hold complex scenarios in mind. When rage pulls your thoughts underwater, it is like navigating a storm while the bilge pump fails, slowly submerging your vessel and strategic vision. Think about intricate plans requiring precision and patience. Watch what happens when anger floods your internal chamber. You misread signals, you overlook crucial details. Your carefully constructed strategy collapses, not from external force, but because internal chaos made you forget your own blueprint. Here's how you seal these leaks. Recognize anger for what it is, an internal expense, not an external solution. Your emotional state is a budget. Every moment in rage is a debit, depleting your capacity for rational thought and decisive action. Treat your emotional energy as a finite resource you cannot afford to waste. The foolish indulge anger. They replay grievances, justify fury, believing indignation is strength. They shout, they stomp, they bleed all over the field. But if you quietly observe anger, acknowledge its presence without feeding it, you detach from its destructive power. You keep your counsel, you keep your counsel, you keep your cool, nothing for them to exploit. What Marcus Aurelius understood 2 millennia ago is that true strength comes from mastering your own mind. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, he wrote. He knew the external world is a trigger, but your reaction is your own making. Your internal world is your fortress if you guard it. The insidious nature of this emotional drain subtly erodes your power. You start making smaller, more frequent errors. You become predictable in outbursts, a target for those seeking to unravel you. The clarity you need for genuine manipulation, for steering others without their awareness, dissipates into a cloud of reactive impulse. Seneca, the Roman Stoic, warned about this very internal destruction. He stated that anger, an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. He understood that, while you aim anger at others, Its primary damage is to yourself, corroding your judgment, burning away your self-control. This is why you must treat anger not as an emotion to express, but as a liability to contain. Every moment you give it space, it consumes your capacity for strategic thinking, for calm observation, for cold calculation. Your ability to play the long game depends on maintaining mental reserves, to keep your ship from sinking into emotional chaos. The true masters of power operate with pristine clarity, their internal world silent, focused, lethal. They do not leak, they do not drain. But even when you master your inner state, external forces remain. Invisible chains they try to bind you with, traps hidden in plain sight. Chapter 5. The Erratic King. The Erratic King, a spectacle of weakness, not strength. Learn how volatile emotions disarm your authority, making you a pawn in your own court. They constantly test you. They poke and prod, waiting for a crack, for a flash of anger. This is the trap of the Erratic King, a perception of instability that disarms your power before you even speak. When you show your temper, when your emotions bleed out, you hand them a weapon. You reveal a weakness, a predictable trigger they can pull again and again. Your words, no matter how sharp, lose their edge. Your commands become mere suggestions, whispers in a storm. Think about the leader who screams, who throws things, whose mood swings like a pendulum. People might flinch in the moment, but their respect drains away, their loyalty crumbles. They learn to ignore the message and brace for the outburst, waiting for it to pass. Watch what happens when a leader cannot control his public face. Every sudden outburst, every uncontrolled frown, every moment of visible frustration chips away at the foundation of his authority. Louis XIV, the Sun King, understood this. He cultivated an image of absolute, unwavering majesty, saying, "El chess moi, I am the state." He knew that any crack in his composure was a crack in his kingdom's power, a signal for rivals to plot and courtiers to exploit. Here's how you counter this. You become a wall, unreadable, unflappable. When they try to provoke you, you present a calm, indifferent front. Your voice remains level, your eyes steady, your body still. You refuse to give them the reaction they crave, the performance they expect. This isn't about suppressing emotion, it's about controlling its display. You feel the rage, the frustration, the insult, but you process it internally. You analyze the attack, you dissect their intent, you prepare your counter. Nothing shows on the surface, nothing gives them satisfaction. If you lash out, if you explode, they know they got to you. They win that round. They see the fear, the insecurity, the lack of control. But if you meet their provocation with a cool silence, with a measured stare, there's nothing for them to grab onto, there's nothing to celebrate. They will try to escalate, they will push harder, bait you more aggressively. This is their test. Pass it, and you elevate yourself. Fail it, and you confirm their suspicion. You are just another emotional fool, easily manipulated, easily led. Queen Elizabeth I navigated a court full of schemers and rivals, always under immense pressure. She never allowed her personal feelings, her fears, or her anger to dictate her public persona. She understood that a ruler's emotional stability was their greatest shield against rebellion and manipulation. Her silence, her steady gaze, often carried more weight than any shouted command because it communicated absolute, unwavering control. Your calm becomes your weapon, your stillness, your armor. They will try to read you, to find a tell, to see the gears turning. Do not give them the satisfaction. Remain an enigma, a solid, unmoving presence in their chaotic world. This is how you reclaim your power. But even a rock can be chipped away, not by direct assault, but by the relentless drip of water. Your external image is one thing, but there's another, more insidious erosion of your power, a quiet draining they orchestrate without you even realizing it. What is it? Chapter 6. The Frozen Lake. the frozen lake, beneath a calm surface, a strategic mind. Your adversaries seek the thaw, the crack. Learn to wield your composure as a weapon. That quiet draining is the leak of your composure, the visible tremor. They bait you, prod you, whisper provocations, all to crack that calm facade, your anger, your frustration, your annoyance. These are not just emotions. They are open wounds, bleeding your power directly into their hands. Every time your voice rises, your jaw tightens, or your eyes betray irritation, you hand them a weapon. They see the map to your breaking point. They learn what triggers you, what makes you flinch. You become predictable, a puppet whose strings are pulled by their cunning hands. Think about the predator observing its prey. It doesn't attack the strongest part. It waits for the weakness, the stumble, the moment of panic. When you react with anger, you are that prey, revealing your fear, your lack of control. You become an easy target. Your reaction is their victory. Here's how you become the frozen lake, unmoving, unreadable. When they hurl their darts, let them shatter against your impenetrable surface. Your face remains blank, your voice stays level, your eyes hold no judgment, no emotion. You are a mirror, reflecting nothing back but their own frantic attempts. The ancient sage Confucius once taught, "Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." What he understood is that true strength isn't the absence of feeling, but the mastery over its expression. They want you to stumble, to fall into their emotional traps. Refuse them that satisfaction. Fools believe showing their true feelings is authentic. They erupt, they complain, they make grand pronouncements of their displeasure. This is not authenticity. It is self-sabotage. It is a broadcast of your vulnerabilities, a sign that you can be swayed, easily rattled, and ultimately controlled. But when you remain stone-faced, when their provocations meet an unyielding silence, they are disarmed. There's nothing to grab onto, nothing to manipulate. Your quiet control makes them question their own actions, their own sanity. They expected a reaction, an explosion. Give them only stillness. Aristotle, the master of logic, understood that anyone can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, this is not easy. He saw anger not as an inherent flaw, but as a potent tool. Most cannot wield it strategically. They are simply consumed by it. This composure, this unshakable calm, projects profound strength. It signals that you operate on a different plane, one where their petty attempts at disturbance hold no sway. They cannot break what they cannot reach. They cannot wound what shows no pain. You become the immovable object, and they, the crumbling force. This mastery over your visible reactions shields you from their immediate attacks. But there's a deeper, more subtle game being played, one where your very existence can be subtly undermined. What is this silent assassination of your presence? Chapter 7, The Surgeon's Hand. A blunt instrument. This is how they disarm you. I will show you how to wield the surgeon's hand, precise and cold, even amidst the fire. The silent assassination of your presence happens when your internal state betrays your external calm. It is the slow, imperceptible erosion of your strategic mind, the moment you allow your emotions, particularly anger, to seize control. They tell you anger is a natural human response, a valid expression. This is a lie. It keeps you weak, predictable, and forever reacting to their whims. When you operate from a place of fury, you become a blunt instrument. You cannot see the board, only the obstacle directly in front of you. Your focus narrows, your perception distorts, consequences vanish. Every decision becomes a reaction, fueled by hot blood, for immediate, often self-destructive gratification. Think about the last time you were truly enraged. Did you notice the subtle shift in their posture, the tremor in their voice, the casual glance they exchanged with another? Or were you too busy projecting your fire, deaf to their tells, blind to their vulnerabilities. Anger makes you forget the world is not a boxing match, but a game of chess. Here's how you regain that sight. Cultivate the surgeon's hand. It is a state of absolute clinical detachment. You do not feel, you observe, you do not react, you analyze. Every person an object of study, every situation a puzzle, every interaction a data point in your strategic map. Watch what happens when you treat your challenges as medical cases, not personal affronts. The emotional noise fades, the urgency dissipates. You start seeing hidden levers, pressure points, vulnerabilities they unknowingly expose. They expect you to be hot-headed. They expect you to flinch. This cold, dispassionate approach allows you to act with precision. You strike where it hurts most, not where you feel most. You exploit their weaknesses, not your own. You control the tempo, dictate the terms. You play with an objective, calculating mind, while they reel from the emotional impact you didn't provide. If you announce your rage, let it spill. People will dismiss your threats as emotional outbursts, easily weathered storms. They will mock your lack of control. But if you quietly observe their patterns, identify their vulnerabilities, then, without a single flicker of emotion, deliver a precise, devastating blow, there is nothing they can do but pick up the pieces. This is why Julius Caesar always operated with a chilling clarity. When he famously crossed the Rubicon, he was not acting out of pique or hot indignation. He weighed risks, assessed the political landscape, and made a cold, irreversible decision that changed history. What he understood is that sentiment was a liability, not a strength, when true power was at stake. The greatest strategists in history never allowed their personal feelings to cloud their judgment. Otto von Bismarck, the architect of German unification, was a master of realpolitik. He saw nations and leaders not as friends or enemies, but variables in a complex equation of power. His alliances forged, broken, and reforged purely on strategic advantage, never personal affection or animosity. His genius lay in recognizing that to win the grand game, you must be the one pulling the strings, not the puppet driven by passion. This detachment, this ability to treat others as chess pieces, is the ultimate defense against subtle undermining. Chapter 8, The Closed Eye. The closed eye, your true undoing. You believe anger empowers, but it merely paints a target on your back. Reveal your heart, and your enemy sharpens their blade. The true vulnerability, the open wound, is the closed eye. This blindness descends when emotion takes over, especially anger. When your vision narrows to the immediate offense, you become a puppet. You miss subtle tells, hidden agendas, quiet movements of those positioning to exploit your outburst. Rage floods your system. Your opponent gains a map to your weaknesses, a clear path to victory. Watch someone snap. Their guard drops. Their facade cracks. They reveal fears, jealousies, needs. They react, not act. This is the moment enemies wait for. A window to slip in, to plant doubt, to seize advantage. As you yell, they bleed information. You are too focused on the noise to see the blood trail. Cultivate chilling calm. Observe detached. When others lose their heads, find opportunities. Every flinch, every tell, every overreaction becomes a data point. The more agitated they become, the more serene you appear. Your stillness is a weapon, reflecting their chaos, amplifying their storm. Here's how you turn their blindness into your vision. Feel anger, resist the urge to speak, explain, retaliate. Instead, lean back, observe pupils, hands, micro-expressions betraying intent. Their words distract, their body tells the truth. They show you weak spots, gaps in their armor, buttons for control. Allow temper to flare, and you broadcast instability, lack of control. You give them what they want, a reaction confirming it. But hold your ground, maintain a neutral, almost bored expression, and there's nothing to latch onto. Your silence forces them to reveal more. They escalate, they push harder, trying to get the reaction they crave. They show their hand, expose their strategy, demonstrate their desperation. You see their triggers, you see their motives. You see the strings they pull and the puppet they want you to be. This is intelligence gathering without moving a muscle. Think about a negotiation table. They yell, they pound, they demand. You sit, unblinking, absorbing the noise. They interpret your calm as weakness, pushing further, revealing their true bottom line, their true fears. If you had met their fury with yours, you would have created a wall, shut down the information flow, and likely lost the advantage. Instead, you opened a channel, a one-way mirror where only you can see. What often masquerades as righteous anger is nothing but a loss of control, a public surrender of your inner fortress. As the strategist Sun Tzu wrote, all warfare is based on deception. What he understood is that your emotional state, especially when expressed, is a beacon. It tells your enemy exactly where you are, what you feel, and how to exploit it. When you are angry, you are easily read. You become predictable, you become a target. Watch what happens when you refuse to play their game. When they expect a scream, and you offer a stare. When they anticipate a fight, and you give them silence, their momentum collapses. Their carefully constructed trap falls apart because you refuse to step into it. They wanted to drag you into their swamp. Instead, you remain on solid ground, observing their flailing. Here's how you use this. When you feel the heat rising, the urge to lash out, pause, count to 10, take a breath. This isn't about suppressing emotion, it's about controlling its output. It's about denying them the fuel they seek. Your anger is a private fire. Keep it contained, let it burn, but let it burn inside you, powering your next move, not blinding you to it. If you react emotionally, you validate their tactics, you affirm their power over you, and you invite more of the same. But if you hold your ground, if you observe the theater they create, there's nothing to grab onto. Your non-reaction is a void. It swallows their aggression, forcing them to regroup, to rethink, to show their next, often weaker, hand. They wanted a performance. You gave them an empty stage. Chapter 9, The Master's Silence. The Master's silence, they crave your voice, but an unyielding quiet, that is the truest scepter. It is a weapon, my friend, more potent than any blade. They wanted a performance. This is the ultimate weapon, a shield that absorbs all strikes, a void that swallows every attack. Your silence is not weakness. It is the ultimate expression of power, an impenetrable wall against the chaos they throw. You refuse to engage on their terms. You refuse to grant them the satisfaction of a reaction. What Mahatma Gandhi understood is that true strength isn't about physical dominance or loud pronouncements, but about an internal, unshakable resolve. He once said, "Silence becomes cowardice when occasion demands speaking out the whole truth and acting accordingly." But his truth wasn't shouted. It was enacted through an unwavering calm that exposed the aggressor's brutality without needing to stoop to it. This isn't about passivity. It's about a deliberate, strategic, non-engagement that strips your opponent of their tools. Watch what happens when you fully embody this. People accustomed to your emotional responses will flail, they will escalate, they will try new triggers, each one failing, each one draining their own energy, not yours. You become a black hole for their chaos, pulling it in, leaving nothing for them to grip, nothing to hold on to. This requires an internal alchemy. It means recognizing the surge of anger, acknowledging its presence, but denying it the path to your mouth, your hands, your face. You transform that raw energy not into an explosion, but into a reservoir. This reservoir then fuels your observation, sharpens your strategy, and empowers your next calculated move. You don't suppress, you redirect. Your presence shifts. You are no longer defined by your reactions, but by your impenetrable composure. The master moves through a room like a whisper, noticed only by the effects he creates, not by the noise he makes. He collects information, identifies vulnerabilities, and sets the stage for his own silent, inevitable maneuvers. Contrast this with a common person who leaks power with every frustrated sigh, every defensive explanation, every boast. They are an open book, their intentions broadcasted, their weaknesses exposed. They think they are being authentic. You know they are just being predictable. What Steve Jobs embodied was this relentless, almost silent focus on what he knew was right. He didn't spend time debating critics or explaining every decision. He built the product, then presented it as an undeniable reality. He once said, "People who are really serious about software should make their own hardware." This wasn't an emotional outburst against competitors. It was a surgical declaration of total integration, a quiet, powerful move that left others scrambling to catch up. He didn't fight battles. He simply changed the game. Your world becomes a place of strategic clarity. Problems are not emotional storms, but intricate puzzles to be solved. People are not sources of irritation, but variables in your grand equation. This detachment grants you an unparalleled view from above, seeing the entire board, not just the piece you're playing. This path demands a price. It asks for the death of your ego's need to be understood, to be seen, to be right in the moment. It means letting go of the small victories of verbal combat.